Emily.
Yeah, yeah, why not?
Awesome.
I'm just sat here.
So I'm going to test.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted before we do go live. Are we cutting off at 9:30? Well,
We
not cutting
are
off.
we are actually live now. I think we'll say 9 provisionally, and then if it keeps going, it keeps going.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, that's fine.
Sorry. What were you saying?
Sorry, I'm going to send a link to Alex to make sure that when people join, they don't join as a guest; they join as an observer. I realise this is actually live now, and people will see this on various channels, but I think people can suck it up. People know we're not
Yeah.
technologically amazing.
If anyone goes on YouTube in the next 6 minutes, then they might see it on their feed. But otherwise, like, it's not really going to get any traction behind it until we tweet it and publish it.
Yeah.
Yes. Really conscious that it's live. Anyway, hello people live watching.
Oh, have we turned the Q&A app on publicly, Matt?
Yes.
Awesome. So Emily, if you click the Q&A box on the left-hand toolbar, when there are questions, they will appear on the right-hand side. That was the wrong link. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex. Go away now. Eject.
I hate you.
Okay, so.
Try again.
Hang on, let me poke around.
That's funny. That made me giggle.
Did it now.
Oh, links. There we are. YouTube page, event page, event page.
Mhm. Can we rename it QuidditchUK Challenge Shield Open Office Hours as well?
Yep.
Getting fancy with the title.
Yes.
Great. So I'm gonna whack this event out. I think if I just put out the event page, it should be fine.
Mhm. Just test that with a link to the event page first, because it was the event page last time that didn't work, but I don't know why it didn't work.
Huh.
So like if you link to it in the group chat, and I'll just see if I can join it in incognito mode as a non-entered
Okay, that's fine.
person.
You can see the reflection of my screen in my glasses. It's really annoying.
I love the fact that when people watch this back, they're gonna see Alex join it and then just get kicked out. Yeah. It's gonna be like we just like picking on Alex. That's funny.
Now do we just wait?
Yeah, we're just gonna test if that's the right link.
And now we wait.
It's a pity that we don't have any questions from the website to answer like we did for the last one.
Yeah, they came in handy.
Yeah, no one actually emailed me, even though I put out.
Alex join it and then just get kicked out.
Yep, that's working.
Cool. Wicked.
So are you good to do the preamble this time, Matt?
Yeah.
Awesome. Also, can whoever that is mute their Facebook chat sounds?
That's me, I'm sorry. I'll log out of Facebook actually.
You are absolved. Do you have access to the QUK Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah, Facebook, I'm doing it now.
Okay.
We shouldn't have gone live so quickly. People are hearing all the secrets.
Who's watching? Other than Alex.
Yeah, but they'll be able to watch it back on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the link has now gone out, so we're now theoretically properly live.
Okay.
Properly live? Oh no.
Best kind of live.
We'll wait till we've got like
Oh,
10
wow.
people or so, and then we'll get things underway.
Surely we wait until 8 o'clock.
Or we'll wait till 8 o'clock. That also would make sense. Good shout, Emily.
Matt,
Yeah.
on the events page, it says that the duration of this hangout is 7:29 to 7:59, which I think means it will shut the hangout off in a minute.
Ah.
Is that possible to edit?
That's okay, just start a new one, right? Or do you have to mess with all your stuff again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Technical stuff.
Technical stuff.
I'm struggling. I don't know if I can edit this. Well, it's still going now, right? I think it will probably just keep going.
Okay.
If it's still going at 8, then we're
With
okay.
the system.
If it shuts us down, I can start a new one. It's not too difficult. So we currently have a grand total of 0 viewers,
Excellent.
and the hangout officially starts now.
Okay.
It's okay. I only just put the links out, so
We have our first question.
I'll save that one. Great. So we have 2 viewers, 3 viewers. Oh my gosh. Those people viewing, if you want to start posting your questions in the little Q&A section, we'll give it a few minutes. I'll do kind of a general preamble, and then we will get started answering them questions. So in a shock wave of confusion, QuidditchUK is asking us if we've publicized the YouTube link. Yes, I think so. I sent out it on Facebook, and I don't know which staff member is accidentally on the Facebook page, but get off, you fool. Great, so I'll do the general preamble, and then we'll start working through questions. So, yeah, welcome to the Challenge Shield Open Office Hours. I'm Matthew Gunzel, Vice President of QuidditchUK, and I'm accompanied by James Burnett, who is Gameplay Director, and Emily Otterbridge, who is Challenge Shield League Coordinator. Tonight I'm going to be emceeing and passing questions on to these guys who will be answering your questions. Okay, Zoe is accidentally posting as QuidditchUK. That's okay. So yeah, if you want to clock up some questions in the next few minutes, we will start working through those. We're going to just work through questions. We're aiming to be finished at about 9 p.m. If the questions really pick up, then we'll keep going probably until about 9:30 at the most. But I don't envisage that will be the case. Once you've received a response to your question, please feel free to message again if you're confused about something, or if you wanted to respond to our response. Please feel free to whack in another question, and we will get to that in time. We will be working through, if you look in the Q&A section, questions kind of get bumped up to the top of the queue, so we are just going to be working through whatever question is at the top, and just keep working down. So yeah, without any further ado, let's get started. First question is from Jan. What were the exact reasons for making the Challenge Shield rosters separate from the primary team affiliation? James, would you like to take this question?
Yeah, sure. I think this is something that Emily and I both probably have something to say on. But from the point of view of the person who was kind of the leading designer of the roster limitation policy, the Challenge Shield, the roster limitation concept works very much from a tournament point of view and is orientated towards tournament play. And given that the Challenge Shield is a different kind of competition in being a league, from that point of view, there was no particular reason to affiliate the two systems. But I'll pass over to Emily for, perhaps from a Challenge Shield point of view, the reason for keeping them distinct.
Yeah, so when we decided that Challenge Shield rosters would be separate, it was simply because the Challenge Shield is a standalone tournament, and we wanted to make sure that any player that's coming in can have an opportunity to play in a competitive game that isn't necessarily a full tournament, which can be quite intense. It usually means, you know, travelling away, whereas Challenge Shield games may be at home. So it gives clubs a chance to go, come along this weekend, play for us in a competitive game, and so the roster is separate from your tournament rosters. I think that answers your question. If it doesn't, ask another one.
Okay, thanks guys, that's great. Next question is from Simon Bidwell. Is the Challenge Shield seen as a replacement for an ELO-like ranking, or should the two not be compared? I think this question probably is open to both of you guys. We'll go to James first.
Sure. Yes and no. In the short term, it should be seen as a replacement insofar as the ELO ranking is what USQ use as their way of running a non-tournament or sort of non-knockout national league. And the Challenge Shield is at the moment QuidditchUK's only approach to doing that. So in that sense, they're a replacement. They're obviously not entirely comparative systems, and they don't compare teams on exactly the same level. And there was a question at the previous office hours where I went into a bit more detail over why at this stage QuidditchUK has opted to use a Challenge Shield kind of ladder as opposed to the yellow system. But obviously they're not the same thing, so they don't invalidate one another. It's just that QuidditchUK at the moment is only endorsing the Challenge Shield as an official league.
Am I supposed to be answering this bit too? Yeah? Okay. So the Challenge Shield is basically, as I've said before, and I'll probably repeat it all the way through this, it's a standalone tournament in a league instead of the weekend tournament. So it's to compare teams' performances over a 3-game match against the same opposition, and then throughout the year. So the short answer to that is no, but it will be able to scale teams depending on how they play, how many games they play, and things like that.
Great, thanks guys. Another question from Simon, who I think is going to be an active voice tonight, judging from the questions thread. Will the Challenge Shield be used for seedings for tournaments such as the BQC? James?
No. In future, if it's something that the team representatives and captains are really interested in doing, then yes, we might look into it. But as it stands at the moment, we've got no plans to do it because, as Emily has reiterated, they are separate competitions, and we don't want teams to feel like their performance in one competition should negatively impact or positively impact their chances on an equal footing in another competition.
Great, thanks. Next question, and this is from Alexander Greenhalgh. Matt, why do you not love me? I'm sorry, Alex. It's not you. It's me. I just don't love anyone. Next, from Simon Bidwell, will the winner receive an actual shield? I think both of you guys probably have something to say on this. Let's go to Emily first.
For the 2014 trial season, no. For every other season, yes. There we go. It should be an annual thing. If everything goes to plan, then it should be an annual thing that you pass over to the next winner each December.
Cool. So from Alex, can you play for a non-primary team as your Challenge Shield team? James, would you like to take this one?
Yes, you can. You can actually there's no limitation like with primary teams. There's no limitation on what team you can put as your Challenge Shield team. So you could conceivably have a primary, secondary, and tertiary team and have a Challenge Shield team which is none of those. We're not quite sure that there's many people that would be in that situation, but it is theoretically possible. So there's no the Challenge Shield and the roster limitation policy for the tournament season have no connection with each other whatsoever.
Cool. Thanks, James. Alex Greenhalgh, again. Is there a difference from winning 2-0 and 2-1? I.e., will that reflect teams well or poorly? James?
There isn't at the moment, no. It would seem like a logical tiebreaker, but given that a best-of-3 Quidditch match with overtime played in all situations can't end on a tie, we don't really have any need for tiebreakers. It's definitely something I think we could consider whether it needs to or should be or could be made relevant in the future. But no, at the moment there's no difference to winning 2-0 as opposed to 2-1. Although, for the sake of making sure each match has the same value, so to speak, and making sure that there's sort of the tournament is consistent. It is, even if you win the first 2 games in a challenge match, you do have to play the 3rd game. So, in a sense, it's impossible to win 2-0. But in the spirit of your question, no, there's no difference between winning by whitewash and winning closely.
Okay, thanks. Next question from Simon Bidwell. Why is this season based on the calendar year rather than the academic year? James?
I'm going to pass this over to Emily because it is a rules-based question, but it was definitely something that Emily was very keen on when we were designing the competition.
Sure.
Yeah, so I did originally have the idea for an academic-based system, but Challenge Shield, as it developed, basically what I hope from it is that it will help community teams. And so that's not saying that the well, where's the question gone, Matt? Anyway, that's not saying that the calendar year and the way it's set up is to help community teams. It's just that we want to see how a club sees the bigger picture and how they set up for the bigger picture. So we want to be able to a team to do really well January to sort of June, which is summer. You know, community teams will have people going on holiday, enjoying the sun in other countries, and university teams will have people graduating or people going home, people spreading out over the country. And so we want to see how teams cope when their rosters change over summer, and how they keep players involved, and how they bring in new players, and sort of have that. Secondly, the calendar system has worked for every other thing in the world, and people will graduate and people will still want to be playing Quidditch, and then not understand why the academic year is being something.
Okay, thanks, Emily.
Yeah, right, yeah, that's it. That answers the question.
Next question from Loughborough. Could you explain your reasoning behind the ranking mechanics? In particular, the choice of a winner swapping positions with the loser if they are lower in the table, as opposed to a more common ranking based on win-win percentage. James, would you like to take this one?
Absolutely. Basically, obviously the most wins percentage in an ideal world is more representative than a ladder-based system, but it does presume either a reliable average of the number of games played or an equal number of games played, and generally a consistency in the schedule of all the teams that have been played. And although there is definite value to the ELO-based, so the USQ style ranking systems in terms of their modifier for games played and strength of schedule, they are, I think, not close to being ideal ways of indicating how well a team's done. So really, with Quidditch nowhere near the stage at the moment where you can say to be part of the league, teams have to play X number of games against all people in the league, all teams in the league. I think a ladder-based system, it's a completely different style of competition, and perhaps it isn't, in an ideal world with an ideal kind of amount of funding and time to put into the sport, it's not as ideal as a win percentage-based system, but it's a system that we can utilize to its fullest capacity with the resources and the capabilities we have, and it's not trying to indicate something which I feel at the moment can't be indicated by a modifier like the strength of schedule modifier that is used in an ELO style system. But Emily, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm back. So yeah, the Challenge Shield, I based the idea on tennis clubs and fencing clubs and other sports like that, where people will come into the club, play as many games as they want to play, challenge when they want to challenge, and move up the ladder that way. So moving up the ladder requires participation, and staying at the top of the ladder requires participation because people will challenge you below, will challenge from below to move up. So it's based on sort of tennis and fencing and things like that, and then adapted to Quidditch. So that's the logic.
Okay, thanks guys.
From my perspective.
Next question is from Jan. Do you feel the mini-season is long enough to establish a representative ranking? James, do you want to take this one?
Certainly. Not a perfect ranking, no. Certainly, if you've read all the stuff on the website in detail, or those of you who have will know that we're not giving out a trophy for this season. We're not counting them as sort of official winners. Like when the website records the number of Challenge Shield season victories and so on, the winners of this mini season won't be recorded as winners because it's still sort of a test season in many ways. But it is long enough for, I hope, a few challenges to be played, for some teams to enter the ladder and then move around again. So it's long enough to serve the purpose it has of giving a sense of what the competition will be, providing a certain amount of competition, and absolutely foolproofing what is quite a complicated rule set, quite a complicated system. I don't think if we were basing a lot of kind of standings off it, and we were kind of saying that this was the first league to win on sort of perfect terms, so to speak, I don't think it would be long enough, but it's long enough for what it's going to do, and I think it will mean that when we have the first season that will be kind of, this is the ranking of UK teams starting in January, it will mean it's that much better.
Okay, great. That is all the questions we have in our little Q&A box. So if you're watching and you've had a question burning in your heart the entire time, please get it out. We'll wait around probably for about 10 to 15 minutes, and if there are no more questions received in that time, we will call it a night early. But yeah, please put in your questions. Anything to do with the challenge shield you might have concerns or queries or just be a bit confused about, feel free to whack that in. We'd love to answer your questions some more. So just a reminder, if you've just joined us, I just saw a few new viewers have joined. We're not speaking because there are no questions. So if you have any questions, please ask them, and we would love to answer them. If we don't receive any new questions by past, we are going to call it a night early, just because we're not going to wait around until someone asks a question. So please ask them now. This is your time. Great. So we've received a few questions. The first one is from Jan. What is the preferred snitching arrangement for matches? The same snitch for all 3 games or different snitches? James, would you like to take this one?
Yeah, and this is actually not just a preference. This is actually part of the Challenge Shield rules. Section 3, the match, specifies that for a match to be valid, the team of officials between and within games within the match did not change. The requirement may be waived only with a good reason for a change being made, typically injury, sufficiently explained and verified by the original head referee, and the team of officials does include the snitch. So unless the snitch in question is injured or is replaced by the head referee for reasons of bias or some other reason that means they can't snitch all 3 matches, all 3 games, they are expected to snitch all 3 games.
Okay. Next question is from the Loughborough Longshots. Are teams entered into the rankings as soon as they register, or after they have challenged or been challenged? For example, could a team challenge the first place team instantly, even if there are more than 3 teams on the ladder? James?
I'll answer the question in 2 parts, because the example, unless I misunderstand it, doesn't quite fit to the question. Teams are entered into the rankings. Teams are Challenge Shield members as soon as they register, but they're not actually put onto the ladder until they've completed a challenge. It doesn't matter whether they were the challenger or the challengee. But there is a system that reads a lot more complicated than it is for how it's resolved that teams are put into the ladder, but they're put in near to the middle of the ladder, essentially, once they've completed a challenge. And they should end up just above the middle point of the ladder if they won the challenge, and just below the middle point of the ladder if they lost it. In terms of could a team challenge first place team instantly, even if there are more than 3 teams on the ladder, if a team that is not yet entered the ladder can challenge any team that is also not in the ladder, and they'll both enter either side of the middle. A team that's outside of the ladder can challenge a team that's in the ladder, but the rules say that for the purposes of challenging in the ladder, they're considered to be at the exact midpoint of the ladder. So if the middle of the ladder is 3 or more places below the top of the ladder, then they can't challenge the top team, which would mean there have to be 8 teams in the ladder, because then they would be considered to be 4.5th, which means they couldn't challenge first. So it is possible for a team to enter at the top. The first team to win a challenge enters at the top, and subsequently a team, until there are 8 other teams in the ladder, a team can challenge the first place team as their first challenge, and if they win that, they'll enter at the top. But there is a limitation on where you can challenge from outside the ladder.
Okay, great. Thanks, James. Next question is from Luke Twist. How many challenges have been made so far? Emily, would you like to take this one? This is a challenge if you've been keeping up with the website.
Yeah. So at the moment, we've got 1 accepted challenge, which is an upcoming challenge. That's all on the website. Take a look. We've got, I believe, 1 other outstanding challenge, but an awful lot of new teams going in, and I assume they're still kind of finding their feet. But I would encourage everyone to get picking up those gauntlets and throwing them at someone's feet, because that is the point. And the more challenges that we can get before the end of November, the better idea of what goes wrong and what goes right that we can get. And so 2015 will be a smoother season, hopefully.
Great, thanks, Emily. Simon Bidwell. For a Challenge Shield match, is the squad limited to the same 21 players for the 3 games? James, would you like to take this one?
Yes, it is. There's not much more to say on that, really. You can have different. So you can have, as you'll probably know, you can have more than 21 players in your Challenge Shield squad, and more than 21 who can play for you. But within the match, all 3 games have to have the same squad of 21, or up to 21.
Okay, and another question from Simon. How many non-QuidditchUK members can a team have in their squad for a Challenge Shield match? Again, probably best suited to James.
There's no hard limit, so I mean, theoretically 20, because... No, 21, because the representative doesn't have to play. But that would be very, very strange. I mean, obviously, as you'll know, there'll be each individual can only play 2 games in the Challenge Shield, or 2 matches in the Challenge Shield before they have to become a QuidditchUK member and affiliate with the team properly. So we imagine there won't be many per match, but there's no hard limit. Although, of course, as I'd add that it's only for non-members or non-Challenge Shield people. You can't play 2 games for a team that you're not affiliated with if you are affiliated for another team or have been affiliated for another team this season.
Okay, thanks, James. And thanks, Simon. Again, we have no questions, so if you're watching and you are confused or you don't get what we're saying, please roll in some more questions. We take questions on the Challenge Shield, on the structure, its rules, challenges that have been issued, general life questions, and struggles. So please get those questions rolling in. If we receive no questions for 10 minutes, we will close the Hangout and call it a night. So please link this to your friends, get your friends to come play. They can come watch, they can ask questions. That'd be great. Next question from Simon Bidwell. How many questions can I ask before Matt gets bored of saying my name? I'll take this question, Simon. There is no limit. I will say your name all night. That didn't come out how I meant it to. Oh well. Okay, we got a question from QuidditchUK, which I assume is actually just Zoe Ford in disguise. Um, they can't log out of the account for some reason. What are the possible reasons a team will automatically forfeit a match? James, go for it.
There are quite a few, and you're asking more than I can, more than is reasonable to expect to recite them all off the top of my head. Ones I can think of within the challenge shield structure, failing to meet any of the dates for a challenge unless one of them is not reasonable or there's some corner case that we haven't thought of that's a really good reason for you to not accept a challenge. Failing to respond to a challenge by, I believe the deadline is a week before the date of the final offered date, means you automatically forfeit a challenge. A lot more of them are match day procedure. Fielding a player who is not on your eligibility roster and hasn't been noted as a new player for that for that match, or just a player who is on another team's eligibility roster, is an automatic match forfeit. The head referee, always has the power to call a game forfeiting on behalf of either or both teams. So that will count in the normal course of things. If a referee decides that a team is behaving badly enough as to forfeit the game on their behalf, then that will count in the Challenge Shield standings. And I guess that covers most of them, but generally trying to cheat the system or being exceptionally unsporting are the sort of things to avoid. But
great.
Yeah.
Thanks, James, and thanks QuidditchUK/Zoe. Again, if you're watching and haven't yet asked a question, or even if you have asked several thousand questions, and don't feel like you can ask any more out of social courtesy, please do keep asking us questions. It's what we're here for. We love them questions, so keep them coming. A question from QuidditchUK. Will the shield be really shiny? I don't think I need to pass this on. I can confirm that yes, the shield will be shiny.
I think if we don't give Emily a chance to talk about how shiny the shield will be, she'll be very, very disappointed with us.
Emily, do you want to talk about how shiny the shield might be?
I would love to talk about the shield. So the plan is to get a really, really, really shiny shield with like fancy stuff on it and things. But that will, of course, depend on the budget, and that like depends on the treasurer. So everyone be really nice to Anna, because she is the treasurer and she is controlling the budget. And I'm sure she will make sure that we can have a nice shiny shield. There will be shiny stuff on the shield anyway, and I will make sure it's polished and shiny and got people's names on it and things. Teams' names rather than people.
Excellent. Thanks, Emily. To clarify on that previous question from QuidditchUK, not only will the shield itself be shiny, in fact, the things on the shield will also be shiny, and hand-shined by Emily Autobridge. So if you have any more shining concerns, please feel free to send a formal email to Emily or to myself, and we'd love to speak more about your shining needs. A question that isn't about shining now from Luke Twist, directed specifically to James. What's the best way to organise a Challenge Shield fixture?
It really depends on the teams involved. Like, obviously, we've designed it with the infrastructure on the website is enough that you can just do it through the website. But especially if you're particularly interested in playing a team, sort of for the sake of playing a team, or a team you never played for before or whatever, as well as for the challenge point of view, it's definitely a good idea to kind of get in touch beforehand. I mean, the Challenge Shield is not intended to kind of replace three best of three friendlies insofar as it's not supposed to stop you playing them against people that you wouldn't play in the Challenge Shield, but it is supposed to give them a sort of purpose. So arranging them in the way that has always been done in the past and just sort of making them competitive by the Challenge Shield is definitely a good way to go. So if you want to discuss with a team, especially a team you're on good terms with, and sort of work out the date, work out what suits, work out where suits, etc., and then just sort of jump through the hoops of doing the challenge, then that's a great sort of that's almost better, because I mean the challenge system is really just to make sure that if it's really cold and distant and formal, that it can still happen and there's still a way to do it. But if you're arranging it on good terms freely, then that's as good, if not better.
Great, thanks, James. Next question is from the Loughborough Longshots. What reasons, the ones you can expect or can think of, for turning down a challenge would be deemed acceptable or unacceptable? Shall we go with James, and then if Emily has something to contribute, that'd be great as well.
The short answer is all the ones I expected and all the ones I can think of, all the ones Emily and I expected and can think of, are already covered by the reasonable dates provision. So the reasons that I would consider to be acceptable for turning down a challenge would be all the dates are so close that if we couldn't make one, we couldn't make them all, or it's like tomorrow, or that's BQC weekend, or that's Christmas Day. So in theory, there shouldn't be any acceptable reasons to turn down a legal challenge, because hopefully the reasonable dates rules cover every challenge that shouldn't be able to be met. The reason there is that caveat of we can say that's an acceptable reason to turn down a challenge is because we've probably missed something. So, but I mean, just an example of things that you might be thinking of that won't be considered acceptable. Saying like the fact that too many of your members can't make that weekend, or we can't field a team on any of these weekends, or we don't want to play that team, are not acceptable reasons, because obviously we don't want to play that team. That's not the point of the Challenge Shield. It's a competitive tournament. In the same way as you wouldn't say we don't want to play that team if you were drawn against them in the quarterfinals of BQC, say. In terms of we don't have the players' time, money, etc. to make that fixture, the idea is obviously the minimum. There's a minimum of almost a month, I think, between the challenge being issued to the last date you can accept. So there is always going to be a reasonable amount of time. Obviously, you can choose to accept a challenge much, much closer if you want to, but if you're struggling, like if you want to play strictly by the rules and not give the waivers that you can give, there's always a really good amount of time between when the challenge is, when you receive the challenge and when you would have to play it. So there's the rules are written to lean towards making sure teams can't squirm their way out of playing challenges that are disadvantageous for them. But we hope that there's kind of enough preparation and enough leeway given in terms of the timing that if a team is unable to make a fixture because they haven't got the players on any of the dates given, they probably would have the space to manoeuvre, and therefore we're not going to be making concessions for that under normal circumstances.
Okay, next question is from Luke Twist. Is the shield awarded for the mini-season? Will it be the same shield each year? I'm going to pass this on to our resident shield expert, Emily Autobridge.
So the shield isn't awarded for the mini-season, as I'm pretty sure it says on the website. But the reason for that is it's only a half season. It's being treated as a trial. It's more important to get all the bugs out of the system and for team representatives to write a list down. So team representatives, if you're listening, write down everything that you find difficult, that you find challenging or confusing. Write it down and get it to me somehow, email probably. But yes, after 2015, the Shield should be the same every year. So yes, that's that. Done.
Great, thanks. Next question and final question on our list. So if you're one of our 10 viewers, please do submit a question, and we'd love to answer those. This question is from Jan. Is the team arranging match official responsible for arranging a snitch substitute? If not, what happens when the snitch is not capable of continuing and there's no one to take over? Because this is a technical question, I'm going to pass it to James.
Awesome. So just to make sure everyone's on the same page, in terms of arranging match officials, the team that is challenged is entitled to dictate the location for the challenge match and is also responsible for making sure there's a fully certified team of match officials. And those match officials, which is the referees, the scorekeeper, and the snitch, to clarify, have to either be provided by QUK or you have to submit a list to QUK and QUK have to approve them. So there's no specific provision for a snitch substitute. Obviously, QuidditchUK is only going to be looking at and sending / approving one team. So it's not going to be a problem with a snitch that hasn't been, you're not going to have to approve the snitch substitute in advance. It is going to be the responsibility of the hosts, who will normally be the challenge team, to cope with any contingencies, I guess, obviously working with the head referee. So in that sense, yes, and it would be a really good idea to have the snitch substitute standing by, but it's not something, you're not going to have to clear the snitch substitute with QUK, or you're not going to be provided with a snitch substitute in the way you will be either need to request or provide, or be provided with a snitch runner. Obviously, in terms of the snitch not being able to continue, hopefully that would just be a case of injury rather than exhaustion, because this is a best of 3. You're only going to be playing a best of 3 match in all likelihood on the day of the challenge, and it's a full day. So obviously it's completely up to the teams and the referee team, but obviously it's strongly recommended that you don't just play the games back to back to back, so the teams and the snitch will have a chance to recover. So hopefully we won't get to the stage that we do see in tournaments where snitches are reluctant to snitch games just because they're knackered.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, James. We've reached that lovely time again where we have no questions on the list. So if you have a question burning in your heart, please ask it now.
I'm just going to use the lull to give a big shout out and thank you to Durhamstrand and the Radcliffe Chimeras. I know there's some Chimeras watching, don't know about Durhamstrand, but you guys are our first officially registered and accepted challenge, so yay you.
Congratulations, good job, guys. As I've said before, if we don't receive any questions for 10 minutes, we will call it a night. There is only 20 minutes officially left of the open office hours anyway. So this is a great time if you've just got here, or if one of your friends is rushing on their way or something, tell them to rush faster. But yeah, we are getting near to the end of the evening now. So if you could crank them questions out, that'd be amazing. Thank you. A question, or rather a shameless plug, from Simon Bidwell. Have you all voted for Southampton in the Mars Milk Sports Fund? You should vote for Southampton in the Mars Milk Sports Fund. There is an attached link that should have come up in that lovely little blue box. If you'd like to go and support Southampton, that'd be great. Thanks, Simon. Bye bye. Next.
More money in Quidditch is good.
I'd also like to point out at that point that if any other team happened to have a Mars Milk Fund, then I'm sure anyone that supported Southampton would also support them. There we go. No biased in Quidditch.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we have a follow-up question from Jan on the snitch substitute issue. Um, so if a match cannot continue as a result of no snitch substitute, does the challenge team lose? I'm assuming they won't be allowed to make one of their players the snitch runner. James?
That's a good point. In theory, I think yes, that's a forfeit on behalf of the defending team on the basis that they haven't given full provision for the match. I mean, in reality, it will be up to the head referee because the head referee has the power to call a game, just sort of forfeit for both teams in effect. So call the challenge null, call the match null. So if it was a case, I guess, like certainly if the challenge team had arranged a backup snitch runner and I don't know a tree fell on all the snitches at once or something, that would not be a situation where the challenge team would be penalised unless it was their tree. But if it was seen, I guess, to be lack of preparation, especially if you had, for example, a snitch who had said in advance that they were, I don't know, coming off an injury, say, or were injury prone, then yes, it is seen to be. I guess the answer is it is seen to be the challenge team's responsibility and liability, but it's not necessarily a forfeit, depending on how much they screwed up in the situation happening as it did.
Okay, thanks, James. Zoe, on behalf of QuidditchUK, would like to remind all viewers we do have a whole bunch of resources relating to the Challenge Shield up on our shiny new website. So if you're here and you haven't yet had a look at those, I would definitely advise you go and take a read. Yeah, thanks, Zoe. So we'd love to take some more questions. Well, there we are. Thanks, Zoe. Why does Matt say my name so sarcastically? Um, it's kind of confusing. I thought this was a Challenge Shield open office hours, not a QuidditchUK EMT complain about how Matt treats them session. Sorry, Zoe, that's just my voice. I'm sorry. I actually do respect you very much as a person. If there are any legitimate questions about the Challenge Shield, not from EMT members complaining about my treatment of them, we would love to take those in the remaining 12 minutes. So please do get them questions out. We'd love to chat with you. Okay, so a question from QuidditchUK. How did you decide on a system of disciplinary points? James, go for it.
I'm not sure how honest to be here. I came up with disciplinary points that sounded sensible, and then I went through them in my head again a couple of times and put them to Emily and I think to a couple of other people to also see if they seemed sensible in relation to one another. Obviously, the principle, we came up, we want a fair play award. How will the fair play award be done? Disciplinary points make sense. What should get disciplinary points? And there was a bit of tweaking from there, but that's obviously one of the things that makes the test season really, really valuable because it's impossible to know until it's just been tested how ridiculous or how sensible the relation of those points will be. So it's really, the short answer is just I thought about it and then I thought about it some more. In terms of how the system works, the system itself is just came from a need to quantify fair play.
Okay, thanks, James. A question from Jan. Will Challenge Shield matches be a legitimate environment for referee field tests? James, go for it.
That would be up to the IRDP to decide, but I see no reason why they wouldn't be.
That's great, thanks. So, with our 9 minutes remaining, if you haven't yet asked a question, please do. If you've been watching all your friends and people you look up to and admire asking questions, and we're thinking, wow, I wish I could ask questions, now is your time to do so in the remaining 9 minutes. Okay, another question from Simon Bidwell. For the purposes of a suspension, does a match refer to one game within a Challenge Shield best of 3, or one complete Challenge Shield best of 3? James?
One complete best of 3. There's something that isn't made clear but is consistent if you know it throughout the Challenge Shield rulebook, is that one game of Quidditch from brooms up to a snitch catch, or multiple snitch catches in the case of overtime, but one game that has one result is a game, and there are 3 games in a match, and a match is the 3-game thing which determines overall who advances and who drops in the Challenge Shield League. So a suspension, a one-match suspension will be one fixture, if you will.
Okay, thanks, James, and thanks, Simon. For those of you who perhaps haven't done this open office hours thingamajig before, this video will go live on the QuidditchUK YouTube channel. So if you have friends who have been asking these kind of questions, perhaps from your team or your team generally have a few concerns or queries, feel free to share that with them. Also, if you appreciate my humor and my handling of the EMT's stupid questions, please feel free to share that around as well. So in the remaining 7 minutes, please feel free to ask any questions you want about the Challenge Shield, and we'd love to answer those. Thanks. Okay, a question from Zoe, who is accidentally posting from the QuidditchUK account, if anyone is confused. Is there any way to complain about a Challenge Shield match that has already occurred? Say if your team isn't happy with the referee's snitch and wants to refute the validity of the result. James, would you like to answer this?
Yes, there are two avenues depending on what the nature of the complaint is. If you dispute the result as recorded, or you essentially think what has been recorded by the system is not what actually happened and is wrong in terms of the decision made on the sort of the result that was. If you think the result recorded on the website is not the result that was finalised between the captains and the referee team at the end of the match, then that would be something you would email to Emily, well, to the Challenge Shield League coordinator, who currently is Emily, and then it is the obligation of the challenge team to produce a signed copy of the match results form, against which it will be verified. And if they can't do that, then they are considered to have belatedly forfeited the challenge. If everyone agrees that the recorded result is the final result, but the final result is disputed because of a snitch decision or a referee call or whatever, then the make a complaint form on the QuidditchUK website has an option to make a match official performance complaint as opposed to a general complaint, and that will send the complaint to me, and there's an internal process for handling such complaints, which is outlined under the let me just check. It's outlined on the QuidditchUK website as the match official complaints process. It's on the page with the constitutional documents, although the process itself is not a constitutional document. And there is the capacity for the gameplay department to act retrospectively if they agree that the officiating of the match or the conditions of the match were negatively affected in such a way as to affect the result of the challenge.
Okay, thanks, James. Question from Simon Bidwell in our final 2 minutes of the open office hours this evening. Does 2 yellow cards in one game resulting in a red card lead to a suspension? Go for it, James.
Not per se. 2 red cards leading to a yellow card in a single game does count as a red card towards the suspension structure. You only get a suspension for receiving 3 red cards in a season. Or not only, but that's the main way you'll pick up suspensions, I guess. If you get 3 red cards in a season, then you get a suspension of 1 match. So 2 yellow cards in 1 game will be 1 of those 3 red cards. But it's not suspension. You don't get any suspensions for just accumulating yellow cards, and you won't get a suspension just on the back of that 1 red card. You could also get suspensions for a single red card, but only if they're particularly bad offences. There's a statutory suspension of 2 matches if the red card is for egregiously illegal contact, egregiously dangerous play, or an act of serious foul play. And there's a statutory suspension of the whole season if the red card is for extreme or abusive language, where the language is considered to be sexist, racist, gender-based, homophobic, transphobic, motivated by religious hatred, or things along those lines.
Okay, great. So I think we're going to wrap it up now. It is 1 minute until 9. We have no questions in our question box. If you have any more questions, I would really encourage you to email those on to James. And I believe that email address is gameplay@quidditchuk.org.
Yeah, that's right. Or you can also, if they're very challenge specific, there's also challengeshield@quidditchuk.org. Okay,
great. So feel free to email either of those addresses if you have any questions or concerns. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we hope to speak to you soon. Have a very good evening.